everyone, and welcome back to Smart Money Strategies. Today I wanted to talk to you about starting your journey as an Airbnb host using your investment property. I've been in the Airbnb business for the last 8 years, and I thought we had a great time to provide you with the ins and outs. At the end of the video, I'm also going to share some exclusive insights and details that I personally use to track things with the business, and I'm sure will also help you in your journey. Let's start with the Airbnb advantage. The reason why Airbnb investment is such a game changer is because it gives you the ability to turn your real estate property into a reliable source of passive income and generate substantial cash flow. With that said, let's dive into step one. The first thing you want to look at when deciding on a property is regulations. If there are any regulations, you should know what they are to figure out if it will affect your earning potential. The best way to do this is through a quick search in your desired hosting location. This is crucial because restrictions can really offset your earnings if they prevent you from Airbnb your place for a full year. In Toronto, for example, you can only rent your place out on a short-term basis for 180 days of the year. So if your running costs are already high, it'll affect your break-even point. At the end of the day, if the restrictions aren't allowing you to break even on your investment, then you should definitely consider a different location. Toronto regulations have gotten much worse over the years, and if you want me to share why in a separate video, then go ahead and comment below. So once you figure out what the short-term regulations are in your desired area, you'll be able to crunch your numbers more effectively. And once you complete this process, you can move on to step two, which is figuring out what your running costs are for at least 1 year before considering a down payment towards a property. This way you'll know exactly how much, if any, cash flow you'll need to be making once you clear your expenses. So for today's example, let's take a Toronto condo with an asking price of $600,000 and a 5-year fixed mortgage interest rate of 5.85, for example. Now in Canada, the minimum down payment you can place on a home is 5%, unless it's not owner occupied, where the mandatory requirement then becomes 20%. So for the purpose of keeping this example simple, let's say you put 20% down, leaving you with the down payment of $120,000. You then take the $600,000, deduct that $120K from it, which leaves you with a remainder of $480,000. So this will be your mortgage amortized into 25 years, leaving you with a monthly mortgage payment of $3,028. You then multiply that by 12 and you get $36,340.80. Okay, perfect. So now you know what you need to cover your mortgage on a monthly and an annual basis. With that in mind, we're going to primarily focus on the remainder of the monthly expenses for the steps ahead. But keep in mind that your down payment is not the only upfront expense. You also want to consider the legal and closing fees when purchasing a property, which can change depending on who you hire. The closing fees can range anywhere between 1 to 5% of the purchase price, so be aware that you'll need to have enough saved for that as well. Now here's the ongoing list of expenses you ought to consider. These numbers are not guaranteed for every property and they can be higher, but this example is just to show you how you can be fully prepared with your investment. So getting into property tax, which average to about $200 to $300 monthly. But let's just estimate it to be about $207 month, which comes out to be about $24.92 annually. You then get your maintenance fees at about $352 monthly and $42.24 annually. Then you want to consider parking, which can be about $180. You times that by 12, that's about $21.60. You then take the internet fees, $75 on average, multiply that by 12, and it gives you $900. Now your hydro, this depends on how much electricity you're using, but on average, hydro bills can range anywhere between $50 to $200. So let's take $100 based off the average rate across the board, which gives you an annual rate of about $1,200. The average cost of rental insurance here is about $38 to $50. So let's take $40 here, giving you a total annual cost of about $480. The average cleaning fees can range anywhere from $80 to $200. So let's just use about $150 here. And this number can fluctuate, but we'll go by an annual average about 6 cleanings per month. If you times that 150 by 6, gives you about $900 monthly at about $10,800 annually. You also want to maintain a float, as things do come up randomly and your place may get damaged. If that happens, you can still claim this through Airbnb, but if it's a time-sensitive matter where you have guests coming in and you need to have repairs done, this is where your float can come in handy to pay for repairs, damages, or even if you need to hire someone for the job. I recommend starting with at least $500 in the floater account, and once you generate a surplus, you can add more to it if need be. So all in all, you have a total of $59,428.80 for the year. So this is what you want to use as your base number. With this in mind, you need to generate enough to clear this every single year for the next 5 years. If you want to get more detailed, you can divide that 59,000 by 365 days, and that'll tell you the daily number that you need to rent your place out in order to clear your daily expenses. So when dividing this to 365, our daily becomes $162.81. Perfect. Now let's go ahead and move on to step 3, which is completing an Airbnb search. You want to actively search on Airbnb for listings in the location you're set on. If you're really looking to maximize your earning potential, it'd be best to find hotspots and tourist attractions that are fairly close to the property. This way, if there's a popular artist performing, for example, it'll drive more demand to your rental property. So looking for a place that's close to frequent concert halls, sports stadiums, common tourist attractions will put you a step ahead as opposed to a rural area that doesn't generate as much traffic. So as an example, let's look at the downtown Vancouver area. With today's start dates, as you can see, a lot of places are being rented out for these prices. You can take a step further and click on the listing to see their vacancy rate. Now, 8 years ago, when I got into the business, this is what I had to rely on to determine what the going rates were. I also got lucky because a close friend of mine was also already Airbnb-ing his place in the same area I was looking at. Today, things are much different, and I would not recommend using this option as your only source because you're still speculating and there's no way to guarantee that the host has actually rented out the dates that are showing to be blocked. So instead, I recommend using platforms like AirDNA, PriceLabs, or alltherooms.com, which gives you rates and an automated analysis of the projected revenue in your desired location. Now, this is much more reliable because they are actually detailing the potential earnings based off other listings that host on regular weekdays, statutory holidays, or even special events in your area. So once you've completed this analysis and discovered that your projected revenue is outperforming your running costs, that being higher than the $59,000 from today's example, then you're in the green. You can start considering that area. Once you're set on the property and location and you're certain your expenses are covered and satisfied with the additional earning potential, then you can contact your realtor and mortgage broker to let them know the type of property you're looking for and how much you're looking to spend. Additionally, if you prefer a condo, you should definitely let your realtor know to find a place with at least one parking spot and a locker, because this will definitely increase your listings demand and help you to manage the property much smoother. Your mortgage broker will typically ask you for things like 2 pay stubs, a job letter, and a credit report. If you're self-employed, then they will also ask for your notice of assessment for the last 2 years. Your broker would then take your application and shop around to see what you could be pre-qualified for, and then take that pre-qualification and shop around for places with your realtor. Once you've located something that you know works out financially and you're confident that it would be a success, then you can go ahead and start the process to get approved for your new property. After you successfully purchase your property and receive the keys in hand, then you can move on to step 4, which is preparing your property to be listed. So the best advice I could give you is to make sure you have these things taken care of before listing your place on Airbnb to avoid any hiccups or negative reviews. You can even hire a team of people from TaskRabbit or alternative platforms to set things up if you aren't familiar with the prepping phase. But if you're tight on money and looking to cut your costs, ask people in your family or your circle of friends. Keep in mind that you can browse other listings and ideas and customize them to your liking, which helps put things in a perspective, especially if you're feeling overwhelmed by starting everything from scratch. Now, here are a list of tips you want to consider when preparing your property. 1 is doing a deep clean. First and foremost, deep clean. If you're cleaning everything yourself and you don't have anyone to help, I would search for a cleaner online. Now keep in mind that you'll need a reliable cleaner when you have consistent bookings, especially if you're unable to visit the place after every single checkout. When I first started as a host, I had no choice. So I did all the cleanings myself to cut costs, but I also knew that no one would take care of the place like I would. This also helped me understand things that I did, which guests appreciated, and then I could rely on to cleaners once I hired them in the future. It also allowed me to build 5-star reviews, which essentially just appealed to more guests. After sustaining enough cash flow, I went ahead and hired full-time cleaners and trained them on what the standard was to ensure that all my guests were satisfied enough to revisit and also leave a positive review. If you're able to do the same, then I highly recommend it. But if not, you can hire a cleaner from the beginning and make sure that you screen them to meet the standards so that you can maintain positive reviews. When looking for cleaners, you can use apps like TaskRabbit or this app called Properly, which I found to be pretty resourceful. You just plug in your location and it gives you a list of cleaners in the area. Now, when hiring cleaners, you want to make sure that you have at least 2 to 4 cleaners so that you can delegate schedules to them. I say this because the risk is too high to rely on just one cleaner. Things happen, people get sick, or they have to deal with emergencies. This way you can hire individual cleaners on a budget. You'll also find that it may be tough for individual cleaners to be consistent with your schedule, because if you're only hiring them 2 to 3 times a week, the incentive for them to show up is low if there's a lot of competition in the area. But once you have a positive cash flow, you can spend a little bit more money on an actual cleaning company that's more reliable because they're typically paid more. This way they'll commit to your place 100% since they're paid higher. This is really important, especially if you plan to travel or if you have a full-time day job that doesn't make up for a flexible schedule. The tip number 2 is focusing on furniture decor. You want to make sure your place looks appealing to the average viewer and has a comfortable setting so that your guests are enjoying their time at your place. Look at other listings for ideas and search for listings that would bring value to your place. If you're feeling overwhelmed, I recommend hiring someone to take care of things for you. You can find plenty of workers on TaskRabbit who specialize in decor and assembling furniture. Shopping around for furniture at places like IKEA or The Brick is also a great option. Pay attention to ongoing sales and make sure that you're shopping around to get the most bang for your buck. I recommend using Rakuten for coupons, offers, and cashback options because it gives you the best priced items across different furniture spots in your area. The next tip is dedicated to purchasing everyday essentials that your guests and cleaners will need. If you're interested in a list of what I keep in storage, go ahead and comment below. But here are just a few examples of things that you'll need. For your cleaners, you want to have a reliable vacuum, mop, soap, sponges, gloves, cleaning supplies for the tables, replacement batteries and bulbs. And for guests, it definitely helps to have a coffee machine, espresso, tea maker, pans, pots, toaster, towels, linens, paper towels, toilet papers, and laundry detergent. This is where your locker will come handy because it gives you extra space to stock up on your items and store them in a safe place. Coming from experience and leaving all your stock in the actual suite is where you'll find that things go missing, or sometimes you'll find that your supplies are being overused. So to avoid that from happening, you want to store your supplies and leave a decent amount in your locker so that you can save more time and money going back and forth to your property. My favorite spots to shop at are Costco for items in bulk, Walmart, and Amazon. You can get a lot of value from Amazon because they have high-end linens and towels there that you can get shipped all at once, then even hire someone to assemble them for you. Now, Amazon is pretty valuable and resourceful because they have high-end linens and towels that you can get shipped all at once, and then you can even hire someone to assemble everything for you. The tip number 4 is locks and security. You want to go ahead and change the locks in your place and implement a smart locking system. This way, you can give your cleaner access to the place without being at the property. It'll also allow the self-check-in process to be much smoother for all your guests. My favorite smart lock is August. I've added a link for it below, and if you do end up purchasing one, it'll give you a $34 discount off your first purchase. The specific one that I've used is the August Smart Lock Pro with Connect. Tip number 5 is a noise monitor. Next thing you want to invest in is a noise monitor which tracks the noise level so that your neighbors don't file complaints about any of your guests. It's wise to always stay under the radar because you don't want to risk losing your listing from just one bad guest. Tip number 6 is getting renter's insurance. Your regular tenant or homeowner's insurance may not include coverage that is specific to short-term rentals. And the last thing you want is to find out when it's too late. I recommend shopping around to finding a policy that caters to short-term rentals so that you don't have any issues with your listing, especially leaks or floods. Now, once you've had all these things ready and you've finished preparing your place, you can move on to step 5, which is registering your short-term listing with the city. Make sure you register it and pay any associated licensing fees to ensure you comply with your city's regulations and avoid any suspensions or bans. After registering, you can move on to step 6, which is taking listing photos. There are 2 ways you can do this, either by taking your own photos or hiring a professional. When I started, I took photos on my own, and after I had more cash flow, I decided to hire a professional to improve the look of my listing. Once you've done that, we can move on to the final step, number 7, which is creating your listing. First thing you want to do is create and register your free account and then click on becoming a host. Here are 5 tips to use when completing the process. Number 1, select your property type, whether it be a house, condo, apartment, bed and breakfast. Choose one of these options that fit your property's criteria. Number 2 is select your location and add the correct amount of beds, amenities, and accurate descriptions. Detail the number of rooms you're hosting and give as much info on the amenities included at your place. Number 3 is list your photos, which is pretty straightforward. For this, you want to use bright, clear photos that accurately represent your space and avoid using dark or blurry pictures. You want to include a mix of wide close-ups so your guests can get a sense of the layout of your space and view the furniture decor. Make sure you avoid photos with personal belongings or people in them so it doesn't feel like the guests are invading someone's space. If you have a unique or special feature, make sure you include a picture of it. Number 5 is give your property some detail. Make sure it's reflective of the atmosphere and the tone of your listing. If it's luxurious or cozy, make sure you include that in the details. Now, I recommend offering self-check-in details because it will just help streamline the check-in process, which frees up more of your time. Make sure you also mention your house rules, which includes things like the check-in and check-out times and restrictions on noise and pet policies. Number 6 is pricing. By now, you already know what your annual goal is, so you want to be making sure that your daily pricing reflects the number that covers your running costs, but also gives you enough ROI as possible. And so there you have it. These are some essential steps to consider when purchasing your first Airbnb property. You can watch this more than once when preparing for things, but now that we reached the end, I'm also going to provide you with the spreadsheet that I've used, which gives you the formula you need to track your rental dates, guests, and cash flow to make sure everything works in your favor and aligns properly. This will also save you a lot of time when dealing with your accountant. You can just send them your completed version to streamline your tax filing process. Now, I've included this for free, and you can just go in the description to download it below and use it to prepare for your first Airbnb listing. Go through it, inspect it. Feel free to leave a comment once you've done this. And if you have any questions, make sure you drop it in the comment section as well. Last but not least, be sure to subscribe to this channel and turn post notifications on if you like this type of content and find value in it. I'm excited to show the rest of the projects I have in store, so be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. And until the next one, take care and bye-bye.